Welcome to my channel, Rise Up with Steve. Please hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. A woman who truly values herself carries a power that goes beyond physical beauty or charm. It is a quiet, undeniable strength that radiates from her character, her principles, and her self-awareness. When a woman respects her worth, she sets boundaries that protect her heart, her dreams, and her peace. She does not allow anyone to manipulate her emotions or treat her as a second option. She understands that her time, energy, and love are precious commodities, and she will not waste them on someone who cannot recognize their value. Such a woman knows that self-respect is not negotiable. She understands that being kind does not mean being a doormat, and being loving does not mean tolerating disrespect. She communicates her expectations clearly and acts decisively when those boundaries are crossed. This clarity in self-value prevents misunderstandings because she does not compromise on her principles for the sake of temporary comfort or approval. A woman who values herself also recognizes the importance of emotional intelligence. She knows when to walk away from situations or people that are toxic, and she does not allow insecurities to dictate her decisions. She invests in her personal growth, her career, her friendships, and her spirituality. In doing so, she becomes someone who others respect, not just for what she can offer, but for who she is as a person. A woman who truly values herself is one of the most powerful forces you will ever encounter. She carries a kind of strength that doesn't scream, that doesn't demand attention. But when she walks into a room, people feel it. It's a confidence that comes from knowing who she is, from understanding her worth, and from refusing to allow anyone to make her feel less than she is. This is not about arrogance or pride. It's about clarity and self-respect. When a woman values herself, she knows what she deserves, and she doesn't settle for anything less. She won't be played. She won't be manipulated, and she certainly will not allow someone else's ignorance to make her question her worth. She understands the importance of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are lines drawn to protect her heart, her mind, and her life. A woman who values herself will communicate her boundaries clearly and act when they are crossed. She doesn't give second chances to people who consistently disrespect her because she knows that self-respect is not negotiable. When someone tries to play her, she doesn't waste time arguing or explaining herself. She walks away with dignity intact. That's the power of self-value. It's quiet, but it's unstoppable. She also knows that being misunderstood is a part of life, and she doesn't let it shake her. People may misinterpret her intentions, her words, or even her actions, but she refuses to let others' limited understanding define her. She knows who she is and what she stands for, and she allows her actions to speak louder than anyone's opinions. A woman like this does not seek validation from outside sources because she already knows her worth. She understands that the opinions of others can sometimes be clouded by jealousy, ignorance, or their own insecurities, and she doesn't allow those opinions to dictate her self-esteem. A woman who values herself also invests in herself. She prioritizes her personal growth, her career, her education, her health, and her relationships. She surrounds herself with people who uplift her, who encourage her, and who recognize her value. She doesn't waste time on toxic relationships or negative influences because she understands that her energy is precious. Every choice she makes reflects the respect she has for herself, and every action she takes builds a life that mirrors her self-worth. Emotional intelligence is another hallmark of a woman who knows her value. She understands her emotions and the emotions of others, and she responds rather than reacts. She can identify manipulation and dishonesty and will not be swayed by charm or flattery alone. She approaches life with a balance of compassion and discernment, knowing that not everyone has the same intentions or the same level of awareness. Her strength lies not in force, but in wisdom. She chooses her battles carefully and protects her peace fiercely. Ultimately, a woman who values herself sets the standard for how she wants to be treated. She attracts respect and discourages disrespect. She draws in relationships that are reciprocal, love that is genuine, and opportunities that honor her abilities. She does not compromise her values for temporary comfort or acceptance. She walks through life with her head high and her heart guarded, knowing that the right people will recognize her value and the wrong people will fade away. Her life becomes a living example of what it means to know one's worth, to demand respect, and to refuse to be diminished by anyone's inability to see her light. A woman who values herself doesn't just rely on beauty, charm, or luck to navigate the world. She relies on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand herself, to understand others, and to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. It is what separates a woman who can be played from one who cannot. She knows that life will throw challenges, difficult people, and tricky situations her way, but she refuses to let her emotions control her decisions. She takes a step back, evaluates the situation, and responds in a way that honors her peace and her self-worth. This kind of woman can recognize manipulation when it comes her way. She sees through charm that lacks sincerity, compliments that are empty, and gestures that are meant to deceive. She doesn't allow flattery or temporary affection to cloud a judgment. People can try to pull her into games, make her doubt herself, or pressure her into decisions she's not ready to make, but she stands firm. She knows the difference between someone who truly respects her and someone who is trying to take advantage of her. Her self-awareness acts as a shield against deception. She also understands that being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean suppressing feelings, it means managing them. She feels deeply, she loves fully, and she experiences life with intensity. But she doesn't let anger, jealousy, or insecurity dictate her actions. When someone disrespects her, she addresses it calmly and clearly rather than reacting with chaos or hurtful words. She knows that reacting impulsively rarely solves a problem and often creates new ones. By responding thoughtfully, she maintains control over her life and her relationships. A woman with emotional intelligence also knows the power of empathy, but she knows where empathy ends and self-protection begins. She can understand someone's struggles, forgive mistakes, and offer support. But she will not sacrifice her boundaries or her dignity for someone else's convenience. She has learned that people with ill intentions will always find a way to manipulate kindness if given the chance. She doesn't ignore that reality, and she doesn't let it erode her character. Her empathy is balanced with discernment, making her strong but not cold, wise but not detached. This kind of emotional maturity also allows her to avoid misunderstanding. Miscommunication happens, yes. But she approaches conflicts with clarity and calm. She asks questions, seeks understanding, and ensures her intentions are clear. She doesn't assume the worst, but she doesn't excuse disrespect either. By managing her emotions and communicating effectively, she reduces drama in her life and strengthens the relationships that matter. A woman who values herself knows that emotional intelligence is also about choosing the right people to invest in. She observes, she listens, and she evaluates the character of those around her. She doesn't rush into relationships, friendships, or business partnerships without considering the long-term impact. She understands that the people she allows close to her have a direct influence on her emotional well-being and her life trajectory. She surrounds herself with those who uplift her, encourage her growth, and respect her boundaries, while she keeps distance from those who bring chaos, confusion, or disrespect. In essence, emotional intelligence is what makes her unplayable. It gives her the ability to stay calm when others try to provoke her, to stay strong when others try to diminish her, and to see clearly when others try to mislead her. It is the invisible armor that protects her heart and her mind. It is what allows her to navigate life with wisdom, confidence, and resilience, ensuring that she is never undervalued, never manipulated, and never misunderstood for long. A woman who values herself knows that personal growth is not optional, it is essential. She understands that her worth is not defined by what others say about her, by how much attention she receives, or by how many people chase after her. Her value is built from within, and investing in herself is the way she nurtures that value. She dedicates time to learning, to expanding her skills, to building her career, and to strengthening her mind and spirit. Every book she reads, every new skill she learns, every opportunity she takes is a brick in the foundation of her confidence and independence. She knows that the stronger she becomes, the harder it is for anyone to undervalue or take her for granted. Personal growth isn't just about education or career. It's also about emotional maturity and self-awareness. She examines her behaviors, her decisions, and her relationships to understand where she can improve. She celebrates her victories, but also reflects on her mistakes, learning from them instead of letting them define her. She surrounds herself with people who challenge her positively, who push her to be better, who encourage her to rise even when she feels like quitting. She knows that stagnation is the enemy of respect, and she refuses to let her life be defined by complacency. She also understands the importance of physical and mental health in personal growth. Taking care of her body, eating right, exercising, and maintaining her well-being is a reflection of value she places on herself. She knows that when she feels strong and healthy, her confidence shines naturally and people are drawn to that energy. Mental health is equally important, so she invests time in meditation, reflection, or prayer, whatever connects her to her inner self. She knows that a balanced mind and body are essential tools to navigate life without being manipulated or undervalued. A woman committed to personal growth is also a woman who sets goals and takes action. She doesn't wait for life to happen to her. She makes life happen for herself. She understands that every choice she makes shapes her future, and she is deliberate about the path she takes. She seeks opportunities that challenge her, that stretch her comfort zone, and that push her toward her potential. She knows that growth is uncomfortable at times, but she also knows that discomfort is temporary and that the rewards, confidence, independence, respect, and fulfillment are permanent. She is a continuous learner. She understands that life never stops teaching lessons, and she actively seeks knowledge in all areas: career, relationships, finances, spirituality, and self-development. She reads books, attends seminars, engages with mentors, and observes those who have achieved what she aspires to. She doesn't envy their success. She studies it, learns from it, and applies it to her own life. Her commitment to personal growth makes her resilient. When challenges arise, she has the tools, the mindset, and the wisdom to handle them with grace and strength. A woman who invests in herself also naturally inspires others. Her dedication, discipline, and self-awareness become a model for those around her. People are drawn to her because she embodies what it means to respect oneself, to grow continuously, and to demand excellence from life. She doesn't just expect others to value her, she demonstrates it through her actions, through her achievements, and through her unwavering commitment to becoming the best version of herself. In the end, personal growth is what makes her unstoppable. It is what ensures that she will never be underestimated, undervalued, or played. She knows that the more she invests in herself, the higher her standards become, and the clearer it is who deserves a place in her life and who does not. She walks through life with confidence, wisdom, and purpose, and nothing can diminish the power of a woman who has committed herself to growing, evolving, and honoring her own value every single day. A woman who values herself knows that life is too short to settle for less than she deserves. She understands that choosing wisely is not just about romantic relationships, it's about friendships, career opportunities, partnerships, and even the small daily decisions that shape the course of her life. She doesn't rush into situations because of loneliness, pressure, or fear of missing out. She waits for what aligns with her values, honors her worth, and contributes to her growth. She has learned that settling may bring temporary comfort, but it will never bring lasting respect, fulfillment, or peace. Choosing wisely starts with self-awareness. She knows her non-negotiables, what she will not tolerate, what makes her feel alive, and what her long-term goals are. This clarity helps her evaluate people and opportunities with honesty rather than hope or wishful thinking. She doesn't allow charm, words, or appearances to blind her judgment. She looks deeper, observing actions, consistency, and integrity. She understands that anyone who truly values her will show it through respect, reliability, and genuine effort. Anything less is not worth her time, energy, or heart. She also knows the importance of patience. Society often pressures women to settle for quick solutions or immediate gratification, but she refuses to be rushed. She understands that the right choices often take time to reveal themselves. She is willing to wait for the person, job, or opportunity that aligns with her standards rather than rushing into something convenient but hollow. She doesn't settle because settling would be a betrayal of herself. She knows that self-respect is worth the wait, and that patience often leads to outcomes far more rewarding than haste ever could. A woman who chooses wisely is also someone who learns from experience. She reflects on past relationships, mistakes, and disappointments, not with bitterness, but with insight. She identifies patterns that don't serve her and adjusts her approach. She recognizes red flags early and trusts her instincts. She knows that settling comes from fear of being alone, fear of judgment, fear of failure, and she refuses to let fear dictate her decisions. Instead, she makes choices based on clarity, courage, and commitment to her own standards. Choosing wisely also means valuing her time and energy. She understands that both are finite resources that must be invested thoughtfully. She does not waste time with people who are inconsistent, dishonest, or uninterested in mutual growth. She surrounds herself with those who uplift her, challenge her to be better, and share her vision for life. She knows that the wrong people can drain her spirit, delay her progress, and cloud her judgment. She protects her energy fiercely because she knows that what she allows in her life determines the quality of her experiences. A woman who refuses to settle sets a standard that others cannot ignore. She demonstrates through her choices that she is not willing to compromise her self-respect for temporary pleasure, easy approval, or false security. People notice her strength, and they either rise to meet her standards or step aside. She understands that her worth is not defined by how many people pursue her, but by how she values herself. Choosing wisely is an act of self-love, and it sends a clear message. She knows her value, and she will not allow anyone to diminish it. Ultimately, choosing wisely over settling is what protects her from heartbreak, disappointment, and regret. It is what ensures that the relationships, opportunities, and experiences she invests in will honor her, uplift her, and reflect her standards. She walks through life with confidence, discernment, and purpose, knowing that every decision she makes in alignment with her worth brings her closer to the life she deserves. She is proof that a woman who values herself does not settle because she understands that settling is the enemy of greatness, respect, and true fulfillment. A woman who values herself knows that true confidence doesn't come from the approval of others, it comes from within. She has learned that no amount of praise, compliments, or recognition can define her worth. And she doesn't allow rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding to shake her self-esteem. She understands that when you rely on external validation, your peace becomes dependent on the opinions, moods, and actions of others, and that is a dangerous place to live. She chooses instead to validate herself, to honor her own growth, decisions, and journey, because she knows that the person who truly matters in defining her value is herself. This kind of woman does not need to prove herself to anyone. She is not trying to impress, over-explain, or justify her choices. She knows who she is and what she stands for, and that clarity shields her from the need for constant external approval. When someone misunderstands her intentions, she doesn't panic or beg for validation. She calmly holds her ground, confident that her truth will always stand for itself. People may misinterpret her, criticize her, or even try to diminish her, but she does not let that erode her self-belief. She knows that opinions are not facts, and she refuses to hand over her power to someone else's perspective. A woman who validates herself also understands the difference between constructive feedback and destructive criticism. She listens, reflects, and adapts when it benefits her growth, but she ignores commentary that comes from jealousy, ignorance, or malice. She does not bend her identity to meet the expectations of others, because she knows that bending too often leads to frustration, resentment, and loss of self. Her self-worth is built on her values, her achievements, and her principles, not on fleeting applause or recognition from the crowd. Inner validation also allows her to navigate relationships with confidence. She does not cling to people who fail to recognize her value, nor does she compromise her standards for fear of rejection. She chooses to surround herself with those who respect and appreciate her for who she truly is. while she gracefully distances herself from those who don't. She understands that people will always have opinions, but only those who contribute positively to her life deserve a place close to her heart. By relying on her own validation, she makes choices from a place of strength rather than neediness, and that makes her unplayable, respected, and empowered. She also understands the freedom that comes from self-validation. When a woman stops seeking approval from others, she experiences a sense of liberation. She can make decisions quickly and confidently, pursue her goals fearlessly, and express her thoughts without hesitation. Her energy is no longer spent on worrying about what others think, but on creating a life that aligns with her dreams, ambitions, and values. She doesn't need to wait for permission to be herself, to pursue her goals, or to claim her success, because she already knows she is worthy. Ultimately, inner validation is what makes a woman truly powerful. It protects her from manipulation, disappointment, and emotional dependency. It gives her the ability to walk through life with dignity, grace, and unwavering self-respect, regardless of the circumstances. She does not seek approval because she knows she already possesses what she needs within herself: clarity, courage, and confidence. Her self-worth is untouchable because it is self-defined, not crowd-defined. People can try to play her, misunderstand her, or undervalue her, but it will not work. Her strength comes from within, and that is a power no one can take away. A woman who validates herself becomes a force that inspires others. She teaches through example that respect, confidence, and love must first come from within. She shows the world that when you honor yourself, demand excellence, and refuse to depend on the approval of others, you create a life filled with purpose, strength, and fulfillment. She is the proof that the only validation that truly matters is the one you give yourself.